This video.
Okay, so I got rid of. I don't have my fucking shit connected. Okay. I don't have my other TV connected. But how are you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having an amazing day today. If you're new here, how you doing? If you liked the video, leave a sub. Let me know what you guys want me to react to next. And all of that good stuff. You know, let me keep it nice and short and simple for you people. The mic is like all the way up here for some weird reason. I don't know why it's like this. I think it should be more like down here. But then again, hold on. No, actually, I think it should be more like that. Like, okay. So hopefully we're good because I can't see the screen. I can't see the recording. I can't see my visual. But let's go. No more needs to be said. I care about, you know, having your guys' attention. Your attention is money. You know, it's super important to me. It means the world. So let's go. Let's see what he has to say. Pursuit of Wonder never misses.
Is sponsored by the self-care app Fabulous.
Shouts out Fabulous.
The first 500 people to use the link in the description will receive 25% off Fabulous Premium. Felix sat against a tree in a small field about a mile into the woods.
Who, Peter? What did he say, Peter?
Felix sat against a tree in a small field about a mile into the woods behind his family's house. He had somewhat recently developed a fondness for spending time secluded in nature, and he loved studying and collecting plants and minerals and whatever else he could find, often creating journals with drawings and diagrams to identify and log his findings. He came to this specific tree quite often whenever he wanted to clear his head or make a big decision.
That's good.
It was isolated.
Is there much to clear your head from out there? I think being out there in general is just going to clear your head. What do you need to clear your head from if you've been out there? Or does he not spend most of his time out here? Maybe he's coming back home from some BS and he needs to, you know, time to, you know, alleviate some of that stress and stuff like that. Stressors of modern life. It's good to have a tree.
Away from everyone and everything. Felix had just turned 18 and was going off to university in the coming fall.
Oh, for real?
He still had not yet fully decided what he wanted to study, though, and it was eating away at him. He knew he didn't have to decide right then and then stick to it for the
But you need to kind of decide. You like, the shit is due in like November, before the end of the school year. So if you're going into college directly, you have to have figured that out before the end of your senior year.
Rest of his life. But he was the type of person who, once he chose something, he was pretty much all in on it, and he knew that about himself.
Good.
Felix sat there against a tree and thought to himself
Wherever you are, be
about
there.
his future, who he wanted to be, and how he wanted to live his life.
And how did
Part of him wanted to
life?
pursue something like botany and live a simple life, but another part of him wanted something much greater, to be truly successful, renowned by the world and history.
What is success?
He wanted to be someone who was known and remembered. Before he knew it, the day grew old and Felix grew
like
tired.
I'm that second
He looked up at the sky
the
as the
ladder.
light blue became a gradient of colors, soon to be darkness. He looked around him, at the spring leaves rustling on the trees and the budding flowers trembling in the wind. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When Felix opened his eyes, he saw a woman. She was standing at a tree opposite him, maybe 50 yards away. Her face was angled slightly and pressed up against the tree with one of her hands kind of cupped around her eye. She appeared to be looking into it. She was dressed in all white and had a strange lightness about her. She was old, but not elderly. Her face was tight, but pretty. Felix had never seen anyone around this area before, so he was immediately startled and confused. He quickly got up and began walking home. "Hey!" yelled the woman. Felix paused and hesitantly turned around toward her. The woman was somehow right up near him now, maybe 2 arms lengths away. "Hi?" Felix said apprehensively.
I don't think she's real.
"You don't have to leave just because of me," said the woman.
I think
"I just
she's
like
a
coming out here to
hallucination.
think."
Or he's dreaming.
That's a strange
When he
coincidence.
closed his eye, he fell asleep. I'm calling it now. When he closed his eyes, he fell asleep. He's dreaming now. I'm calling it.
Felix thought to himself. "No, it's fine. I was just heading home." "Okay, suit yourself." Felix turned around and kept walking. "What were you thinking about?" The woman continued unprompted. Felix turned around again. "Why? You seem stressed. Maybe I can help. I've been around a while. You know, school, life in general, I guess." Said the woman. "What about it?" "I guess I'm trying to decide what I want to do, what I want to go to school for and do in life and everything." "Well, what do you want?" asked the woman. "I want to be successful, I know that. And I want to be important. I want the world to know me and remember me." Said the woman. She stood quietly for a moment. Look over here for a minute. I want to show you something. The woman walked over to the tree Felix was sitting at. Felix followed somewhat hesitantly. When they arrived, the woman pointed at the tree, staring at it intensely. Felix was confused as he looked on at the tree, then the woman, then back at the tree. Suddenly, the woman approached the tree and placed her finger into the face of it. It went right through. The ground shook with a brief but violent jolt. Felix found the whole thing kind of disturbing. The woman walked back away from the tree, looked at Felix, and then pointed at what was now a small hole about the size of a coin. "What's that?" Felix asked. "Look," said the woman. Felix approached the tree hesitantly and looked inside. As he approached, the view inside the hole grew larger and larger, almost distorting the tree and creating a growing fisheye perspective like a peephole on a door. On the inside, he saw himself and the woman. As if from another person's perspective behind them, he saw himself from third person, looking into the tree with the woman standing behind him. "What is that?" Felix asked, disconcertingly moving away. "Follow me," said the woman. The woman began walking into the woods. Compelled by curiosity and an inexplicable comfort, Felix followed her. While they were walking, Felix blurted out, "Can you go into that?" "Into what?" "The little hole thing." "No." "Why not?" "You'll die." When the two reached another seemingly arbitrary tree, the woman stopped. She approached it and poked 3 holes in a horizontal line, and then stepped back. Felix followed her lead and looked inside the first hole. He saw a man who looked to be in his 20s or 30s. He looked familiar, but Felix couldn't quite pin down exactly where he had seen him from before. The man was sitting at a desk, alone, working. It appeared to be a large office with big windows. It was nighttime, and you could see the skyline of a city behind him. The man appeared to be deeply stressed. Felix backed away from the hole. "Who is that?" he asked. "You."
I knew it.
Felix looked in again and recognized himself now. "You are one of the few people capable of immense greatness," the woman said in a much more intense, focused tone. "Your traits and abilities will mix just right to allow you to climb the ranks of the business world, and you will become one of the most prominent business magnates and product developers in human history. You will be revered by the world in your lifetime. You will be remembered for a long time after it." The woman pointed at the second hole.
Business magnate. Do business magnates get remembered? I mean, who classifies as a business magnate? I mean, if you write books, which pretty much every rich person ever has always done, maybe.
Felix looked inside and saw an older man in his 40s or 50s.
Damn.
He was on a large stage, receiving what looked like some sort of an award. He was wearing a strange tuxedo, unlike anything Felix had ever seen before. A massive crowd was applauding him. A woman and 2 children stood at the front of it. The man smiled and pointed at them. Then he smiled and pointed at the rest of the crowd. A moment passed and the man got off the stage and went up to the woman and 2 children in the front. They appeared to be his family. He whispered in the woman's ear, his lips reading, "I have to catch that flight now." The woman looked disappointed as the man left with what looked like a small team of security. That's me too?" Felix asked the woman as he pulled his face away.
More
Yes,
than likely.
a little bit older. Without being instructed, Felix looked into the third hole. It was a classroom filled with students. The classroom looked strange, mostly empty, with sleek white walls and floors. The students were using some sort of device that displayed out in front of them, like a holographic textbook. On their displays were text and an image of Felix in his 50s. "Is that well after your lifetime?" interrupted the woman. Felix began to feel an indescribable sense of pride, relief, and excitement for himself and his future. He smiled tightly and his shoulders raised. "You will be this," said the woman, "but you will dedicate your entire life to your career, to your business, to your legacy. Okay?" Felix said, figuring as much. "No, you don't understand," the woman continued. "You will sacrifice everything, your free time, most of your social life, most of your love life and family life, almost all of your leisure and peace and quiet. Just about everything else will fall to the wayside. But it is guaranteed you will be this, known by the world and remembered by history." "What about more of a balance?" Felix interrupted. "There is no balance when one side of the scale requires everything from you." Felix paused. "So, is this it?"
Yo, that's kind of deep. That's kind of deep. Hold on now. Repeat that?
Interrupted. There is no balance when one side of the scale requires everything from you.
There is no balance when one side of the scale requires everything from you. Somebody fucking quote that. Somebody fucking quote that now. Quote it now, brother.
Felix
Quote it now.
paused. So, is this it? Felix said as he gestured out and around him, hoping that perhaps the woman was an indication of something beyond this life. Follow me, said the woman, continuing to walk a little further into the woods and up a hillside. The woman stopped at a large boulder. Felix was exhausted. The night was taking over the sky. Again, the woman created a hole, this time in the face of the rock. She stepped away and pointed toward it. Felix approached and looked in. Inside, Felix saw nothing. The only dimension of space he could make out was from faint light beams that seemed to be coming from what looked like stars in the distance. What is that? Felix asked as he pulled his head away. That's here, a short time into the future, relatively speaking. The woman pointed at the ground. But there's nothing, Felix said. I know. Where is everything? Where everything goes. But what happened to Earth? What didn't happen to Earth? The woman poked another hole in the boulder right above the previous one. Felix knew what to do by now. Inside this one, he saw everything. In a violent rupture of perspective, he was pulled from his myopic view and thrust outward into an indescribable, unrestrained view of everything. Free from time, free from space. He saw the waltz of waves and the poetry of particles, the discotheque of dimensions and the emancipation of energy, the dance of decay and the pain of progress. He saw nothing and everything, intertwined like a serpent consuming its tail, with reason and absurdity excreting out from it. Finally, Felix saw himself amidst it all, an infinitesimal blemish on a speck that if it didn't exist, nothing would be different at all. His tininess was as inconceivable as the universe's vastness. Felix pushed himself away, holding his upper stomach and breathing heavily. The woman waited a minute. Come on, hold it as in fact that if it didn't exist. Felix
Look at his poetry, by the way. This guy's writing is good. Get the book, man. I have the book. Go get it. Please.
saw himself amidst it all, an infinitesimal blemish on a speck.
An infinitesimal blemish.
That if it didn't exist.
This is us, by the way. You know, with, using deep English language terminology. An infinitesimal blemish on a speck
nothing
that if it didn't
would be
exist,
different
nothing
at all.
would be different at all. But that is kind of harsh. Because, well, I mean, if we didn't exist, then that's less people that can consciously look back at the world. That's less matter that is conscious of itself. That's something. That stands for something. I mean, sure, it would go on just this whatever without us, but it wouldn't, like, there would be less, and I say less because we don't know if we're the only conscious beings in the universe. Probably not. But there'd be less consciousness. There'd be less things aware, like the matter would be not aware of itself. It wouldn't be looking back at itself, studying itself, hearing its own harmonies. There's less there because that matter and energy didn't, use up the small parts to create a more complicated and more complex system, complicated enough to develop a form of consciousness. And so if that little speck didn't exist, that's less consciousness in the world. And consciousness stands for something just on its own. It is valuable on its own. It doesn't need to do anything, It doesn't need to do anything great or special. It's consciousness. At the end of the day, it's like, look at us, animals aware of itself. The universe aware of itself. Gods almost. In a way. So I mean, it is kind of harsh to say, well, it's nothing. Of course it would still go on. The universe would easily keep going, but
his tininess was as inconceivable as the universe's vastness. Felix pushed himself away, holding his upper stomach and breathing heavily. The woman waited a minute. Come on, let's go back now. The two arrived back at the tree where they had started. The hole in the tree was gone now, but the woman made two final new ones. Felix, exhausted now, unable to imagine what else she could possibly be showing him, slowly and reluctantly approached and looked inside. He saw himself again, in his 30s or 40s, But this time, he was walking in the woods with two other people around the same age. They were wearing relatively casual outdoorsy clothing. They carried large futuristic test tubes and what looked like digital magnifying glasses. They seemed happy. Felix looked into the second hole. It was him again, still around the same age, a little older maybe. He was playing with children in the front yard of a house in what looked like the countryside. A woman sat in the background on the porch of the small home. A moment passed and then a car drove up and another family got out and joined them. Felix pulled his head away. Is that also me? It is. I'm confused. I thought you said I was going to be... What about my destiny? Every destiny is made of decisions. Every decision is made with a goal in mind. Your destiny is only what you do. You can choose not to. Felix paused, trying to wrap his head around everything. The weight and absurdity of the whole experience knocked him to the ground. When you see everything, you realize how much is really nothing. And when you see nothing, you realize what is really everything. You said you wanted to be successful. I can see everything.
Fucking hell,
really everything. Realize how much is really nothing.
When you see everything, you realize how much is really nothing.
And when you see nothing,
you
realize what is really everything.
You realize what is really
You said you
everything.
wanted to be successful.
My God.
I can see everything, anytime, any place, and I do not know what this means. Only you do. Felix leaned up against...
Successful. Yeah, success is subjective. I don't know if I said that at the beginning, but it's like, what do you mean by success? But they did lay it out what he meant, to be remembered, to be respected, to be known, to be famous or whatever. That's the operational definition that we're working with in that example. But there's multiple ways that success can go. It's not just one rigid way. People can make their own success. People's definition of success is different. You, the viewer, you watching this, your definition of success is different than mine.
Against the tree and laid back for a moment. He looked up at the night sky, breathed in deeply, and closed his eyes. So, said the woman, what are you going to do?
That is the question, isn't it?
Thank you so much for watching. This video was sponsored by the #1...
What do we got? What do we got, boys? Let me know what you guys think. That was deep. Okay. I enjoyed the content. He died doing what he wanted no matter what, right? I bet he died happy. Oh, wow. Wow. That's a testament, for, don't live to be remembered. We will all be forgotten. Well, I guess it's not saying, nobody really is making a claim for how one should live. That's not a real thing. We have had hundreds of years of philosophers trying to discuss this, argue for whatever they believe, argue against what this person says for how we should be living. Anybody has their own way that they want to live their life, and all of them are right. It's not relativism, it's pluralism. Everybody can have a right way of living. If you feel like, for whatever reason, your culture, your experiences, everything has made you somebody that for sure wants more than everything and is willing to sacrifice everything to become somebody that is remembered. Somebody like, I'm not saying that I would necessarily sacrifice absolutely everything, but I would love to be remembered. That's something that I would like. Nobody wants to be forgotten. Let's be real here. But when you understand, well, we will all be forgotten in the end, and through time anyway. People stay here. I know Seneca. He lived 2,000 years ago. It's can I at least be remembered for a good amount of time? I mean, at some point, Seneca's not going to get remembered. Right? At some point, people are going to forget Marcus Aurelius. People are going to forget Epictetus, maybe Newton. But look at these look at the hyper strata of the men that we're talking about. Look at how, unbelievably rare that is to be one of those people. You can't possibly hope or expect yourself to get to their level. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to anybody else. Like, you can't expect to be remembered for 2,000 years. You honestly can't. And when the more people that come up that become famous and liked, I feel like paradoxically, the less and less of them that will truly be remembered for a like considerable amount of time. You know, I feel like because there's more and more people that are famous through TikTok, and you know they still classify as famous and they fit the bill, whatever. Like more and more people are becoming very popular and very well known by a large amount of the population that I think they're gonna get forgotten so quickly. And people are in general, no matter how great they are, people I feel in the new age are just gonna get forgotten so quickly just by the sheer amount of volume of people. More volume, which I know it's still a bit rare, which is why it's still, you know, highly classified and it's respected to be somebody that's well known. But like the high volume of people that are well known is gonna make it so I feel that people become forgotten more quickly. You know. Is anybody gonna remember Bryce Hall in 500 years? It's not happening. It's just not happening unless if he creates something that can help humanity for the next 500 years. It's just not happening. You know? Will people remember Jordan Peterson for the next 500 years? I'm not sure. Probably not. But that remains to be seen. You know? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 500 years? Can you live to try to be remembered? Absolutely. That's your choice. You want to make that choice? Go ahead. It's your life. Nobody's going to stop you there. But if you don't, but this, you know, it says don't live to be remembered because a lot of people feel they need to do this. It's a very popular thing. It's very easy for somebody to tell you, oh, you need to want this. You need to want to become this. It's like, no. Don't live to be remembered. We'll all be forgotten anyway. It's fine if you're not going to be remembered. It's fine if you don't make it your life mission to be remembered. That's what this is really arguing. It's not saying nobody should be remembered. You shouldn't live your life to be like, no, not necessarily. It's just like telling you don't have to. Okay, like I think this is a message you need to hear because most people feel in, you know, today's society or whatever. I'm sure this is a common thing that people want to be remembered. It's more common than not. Of course, there's always some people that, you know, want to live. They want to definitely live that simple life and you know, be a part of a community and just have fun with friends and family and love and all that good stuff. That's way more important than anything else, you know, being remembered, being famous, being whatever. But let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something new. You got something of value. And yeah.